Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Amigos, our occasional series where our Discord members put questions for us on Discord and we answer them for you. All the burning questions that you have about
I
us.
think you're running on the old parser.
All the sleepless nights that you spend wondering how we really feel about certain things. All will be revealed. All will be revealed. So, Aaron, first up, Graham Vebke asks, to settle an argument I had with my wife, what kind of soup do you draw that line at? Oh, so let me try that again. What kind of soup do you draw the line at before it becomes a stew?
I don't like stew. So for me, I guess cream of tomato. That's where I draw the line.
I don't think you understand the question.
Okay.
What he's asking is, how thick does a soup have to be before it becomes a stew?
Cream of tomato. That's as thick as it can be. That's pretty thick, Bo. You ever had that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for me. I'm not a big stew guy. What about you?
Okay. I think if you have to use a utensil other than a spoon, then you're in stew territory. So like with beef stew, you're going to want to get in there with a fork. I can't believe you don't like beef stew.
I don't like stew. I don't like stews.
Why?
I just don't. I don't know. You know, why don't I like? I don't know. I just don't know why I don't like it. I just don't.
But you like
I don't
soup.
ever eat stew. I do like a couple of soups, not very many.
What kind of soups do you enjoy?
Chicken noodle soup, cream with tomato soup. That's it.
That's it? Does it have to be Campbell's?
It doesn't have to be.
So what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about your like home style chicken noodle soup?
I would eat it, but I'm not like.
It has to be Campbell's.
You ever eat chicken noodle soup from like Bob Evans?
Yeah.
I like theirs. Very good.
You like theirs? Okay, I would call that a home style.
There you go.
It's not just it's got carrots and other things in it. It's not just chicken and noodles. Okay.
I like to get stewed.
Ha 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 ha. Ultra Mangus TCV asks, what's on the Love Boat picture behind you two? So that is something that Pixels at Dawn whipped up. It's a picture of the Love Boat Season 1 DVD cover with my face as the captain, Aaron as my grateful servant, Brent as a cabin boy, and then the two other guys.
I think I'm a grateful servant. I'm a colleague.
Kate Fox asks me, did you give up anything for Lent? And Kate, yes, I did. I usually use Lent as a time to increase my prayer life and usually give up something food related that I enjoy. And this year I've given up all meat except for seafood. So seafood is technically a meat, but it's not chicken, no beef, no anything like that. Only seafood. No stew. So
is Lent still happening?
Lent goes on until Easter.
It does.
Yeah.
So here you are home for all this time with no meat.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Well, you know, it's interesting. It hasn't been as hard as I thought it would be. One year I gave up milk, and that was much harder. Because I just love.
I mean, like anything with milk in it, or just milk?
Yeah, like any. Well, really, I don't really do anything else that doesn't have I guess no, because I would still eat cheese, but I just love cereal so much. It was really hard for me to give that up. So
yeah, when I was low carb and back in the day, that's the one thing I was craving was milk and cereal. I understand.
Now I know that you're not a real religious guy, Aaron, but if you were and you were to give something up, what would be something that would be difficult for you to go without for 40 days?
I have given up something actually, but ironically,
really,
I've decided not to leave my house until Easter. That's my thing now.
How's that turning out for you?
It sucks bad. It sucks real bad.
All right. Let's see. Pac Billy asks, what are your desert island discs? Albums you would take with you to a desert island. We're talking full albums here and no greatest hits collections or compilations. Now, I asked a follow-up question to Pac Billy about how many we were allowed to choose, and he said 8. I think that's too many. So I'm going to give you 3.
Does that include live albums?
None of that crap. It's got to be a legit
you can't take
album.
A live album?
It's got to be legit studio albums.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, let's just name a couple then.
Yeah, just what are the ones that come to mind right away?
Let's see. I would go with the Beatles' White Album. I would go with Led Zeppelin 4. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. Those all come to mind instantly.
Okay. I would probably choose 3 by Archer Pruitt. These are going to be things you've never heard of, by the way. I would go with the eponymous Sea and Cake album, the first album by the Sea and Cake. And then I would probably, because we're talking about a desert island, something that we're going to deal with for the rest of our lives, I would probably just have somebody send me a random CD, a random album that I'd never heard before. Because that way you get to know
That's a horrible plan. What if someone sends you like Elvis Hitler? You ever heard those guys?
No.
Or like Skinny Puppy. Something hideous. You would be stuck with it, and it would be something you asked for. Give me garbage, you'd say.
That's true. You are sort of rolling the dice there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, I'm just telling you, horrible idea. Now, let's make our own question. What if you could take any album, greatest hits live, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
what would you take then?
If I could take any album, boy.
Take 3 of them.
It would definitely be there would definitely be some greatest hits in there. Probably, Yes, greatest hits of Yes. Each song's about 45 minutes, so I'd definitely get my money's worth there. I'd probably take the Bach Goldberg variations, or not the Bach Goldberg variations. So some piano. My third one, boy, that's tricky. I might go with Elton John's greatest hits. It's a pretty good album. I don't know. All these are crap.
I would go with the double live album from the Indigo Girls, Back on the Bus, Y'all. I love that. I would go with ABBA's greatest hits, because you got to have something to keep you happy on
True.
there. And then I would probably go with something like, as a third album, Journey's greatest hits, something like that.
You know what? I take back what I said.
Although the Planets, was it Hoist?
Holst. Yep.
I love that collection.
Yeah, man.
So that's honorable mention.
That's great stuff. I would probably take Miles Davis' Birth of the Cool in place of one of those. I forgot about that. That's my favorite jazz record. Yeah.
I hope we're on different islands when you're playing that.
Man, I'm going to pump the jazz so loud you won't be able to get away from it.
I'll be alone soon. And I'll be full, too.
Oh, all right. Lobsterminator asks, if you could go back in time and nudge Commodore by one business decision, what would it be? Nudge is a bit vague, so maybe interpret it as a decision that can be made during one crucial meeting.
Gosh. Just one. I probably would, I don't think one nudge would do it. So I would nudge. So here's my nudge. I would nudge Commodore into selling to Commodore UK. That's my nudge.
That's a pretty good nudge.
What they ended up doing, because I'm assuming they're going to fail regardless. There's not enough nudges to get the job done. But I think if they sold, if Commodore UK got all the stuff, all the Amiga properties and stuff, I think we could still get something going. Because they didn't get it, and we don't got nothing going. What do you think?
I would have done whatever it took to not let Jack leave.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that when Jack left, I mean, he would have made everything better. He would have made everything better. He would have taken everything, like all of the cost-cutting measures that made the ST be able to come in so much lower than the Amiga. He could have applied those to the Amiga, and there wouldn't have even been an ST for them to compete against. So Amiga,
but he failed horribly at Atari. So what makes you think he'd do a better job at Commodore?
Listen, man, he was given a poor hand to play.
He had Atari.
Yeah, Atari.
He made every wrong decision. Every single one of them wrong.
Listen, man, I've said what I've said.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Graham Bebke says, who are your favorite game publishers for the Amiga?
Cinemaware.
That's funny because Graham said, mine is Cinemaware. Okay.
I know you hate Cinemaware.
I don't hate them.
And also Psygnosis. Those are my top 2.
Okay. I don't really have a favorite game publisher for the Amiga.
Oh, Team 17.
Okay.
Also great.
Actually, no, I take it back. Sensible. Sensible's my favorite.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you got Cannon Fodder. That was Sensible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cannon Fodder, Sensible Soccer, Sensible Golf's not bad. Yeah. So yeah, go with them. Um, let's see. Zebedee's Magic Roundabout asks, what's your favorite cuisine when ordering a takeaway?
You go ahead, Boat.
Um,
I gotta think about that one.
oh, for me, Chinese. No question about it. Chinese takeaway, there's nothing better. Comes in those neat little boxes.
I may have to agree with you on that. I mean, I never get Chinese, but it is awful good. I like
You
to get some
can
of that.
you can expand this out to like something that you'd run out because we don't really do takeaway here in Hurricane. It's not really a thing. We go through the drive-through because we got
Right, but
cars in America.
if I'm doing takeaway, it is Chinese.
But I
'Cause
mean,
you have
what's
to
your
go get that.
number one go-to through the drive-through?
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the one I want to eat. You know, um, I the crap. It's all crap, Boat. The one good thing that's came from this lockdown is I've been cooking all of our meals, except for tonight, and it's been great. You know, it's been much better eating.
Good.
You know, so if anything comes out of this, hopefully it'll be I can convince everyone this let's not eat out as much because I'd rather eat at home.
Lord Soup asks, it's often asserted that the A1200 was too little too late. If you could, would you have had a higher spec A1200 or released it a year or two sooner?
Year or two sooner.
Yeah.
I think would have been the way to go. Listen, if we're going back to the polka guy, there's plenty of pokes to be given out. They rode that 500 into the dirt, much like Atari did with their 8-bit line. They rode that into the dirt too, and it took them too long to get in the ball game. You know, if the 1200 had came out a few, I also would have nixed the 600 completely or done that with an upgrade. I mean, if you release a 600 and the 1200 at the same time 2 years early, and the 600 is a cut rate version of the 1200, but also has has the same specs and AGA, then you got something, all right? Then you're replacing your 500 line. Because if you've got a 500 and it's time to upgrade, and you look at your choices, you're like, well, I can't afford to buy a 1200. Wait, here's a 600 with pretty similar specs and AGA, and it's $150 cheaper. That I can afford, bam. You've got something there. But what they ended up doing was...
They did.
You could have... If you'd really juiced the 1200, you would have had to pay more. And if you had to pay more, you're defeating the point of releasing it because, I mean, it's still not powerful enough.
Yeah.
So I would have released it 2 years earlier, given those two choices.
Here's what I would have done. I would have not had the 1200 at all. I think the 1200 is the ultimate lame duck in the Amiga lineup. I would have done exactly what you said. I would have put AGA in the 600 and then have two models. You've got your big box Amiga for your people that are into the business and creative side of things. You can put your toaster in there. It's got all kinds of Zorro slots, whatever. And then for the people that are just in it for the games, here's a 600 with more RAM and an AGA. You know, and for people that are upgrading from the 500, that's enough. All they need is AGA and extra memory and maybe a hard drive or whatever. And then for everybody that wants to do all the creative stuff, get a big box Amiga. Did I lose you, Aaron? Did I lose everybody? Are you still with me, chat? All right. Well, I'm going to hang up on... Oh, Aaron had just hung up. So I think we'll just wait for him to call me back. I will move on with the next question, and hopefully he'll call me back in time to answer. So... this might be controversial. Maybe we'll hold that one out. Looks like maybe my Skype just crashed on me. Hold on a second. No. Cancel. All right, I'm going to try calling Aaron back. Nope, we've lost. Oh. All right. Well, looks like Aaron's internet's gone out. So I guess I'll finish these up myself. Actually, let's see, how long have we been going here? 15 minutes? Yeah, well, oh, never mind. He's calling me now. Hey, man.
And that's how I would have fixed Commodore.
All right, next up, Duncan Styles asks, this might be controversial. If you had to ditch one of your podcasts, which one would it be and why?
We had to ditch one.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that is controversial.
Why don't you let me answer this one?
All right. I know your answer.
ARG. No. To be honest with you, I think that the way our podcasts work is we should operate on the last in, first out principle. So our newest podcast, as much as I like it, 1200 XL, if we were to have to abandon one, that would be probably the one that I would suggest we'd axe.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I will say we've done Amigos for so long. There's a lot more stuff on the Atari we haven't played than there is on the Amigos, but I'd hate to ditch the Amigos because it's my baby, so I'd hate to ditch it. So I'd have to probably say Atari. I will say the Coco, there's far less stuff to look at than there is on the there's far less stuff on the Coco than there is the Atari.
Mm-hmm.
So you could probably, the thing about these podcasts too. It's funny, I should mention this. I was listening to Pixel Gaiden over the weekend or over the week, and they mentioned the fact that we'd started another show. And they were like, these guys have shows for everything. They're just going crazy. When we have started a couple new shows, but it's not like we're shooting them every week. When you're only shooting them like once a month for like 20 minutes, I mean, it seems like, oh God, they've got tons and tons of stuff. It's not that bad. It's quite simple, actually. Like those shows, listen, playing one-on-one, it doesn't require you to put in as much time as it does to, say, play Nuclear War or even something like The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's true. You bring up a good point about the Coco because there just isn't that much out for the Coco compared to the Atari. The Coco and the Atari would have to fight it out to figure out which one got the axe. The Specky is, there's just way too much. There's way too much fertile ground there. And the Amiga, I'll never stop the Amigos as long as you still want to do it because it's our first, our last, our everything. The
truth is we would never be forced to stop one. Because because if we were forced to stop them, we'd probably just shut everything down because it doesn't take that much time compared to the shorter podcasts are pretty simple to plan for.
Yeah.
And I will say it's hard to pick one because I really enjoy doing them all.
Yeah. I mean, the way that we're doing things now, like I don't feel like there's any more crunch on us than there ever has been in the past. It's just the systems that we're covering, like the Atari and the Coco, for the majority of the time, you spend an evening with a game and you really feel like you know it pretty well, versus with the Amiga, a lot of times those take a lot longer to come to grips with.
There's a few weeks where it can get real hectic. A lot of times, depending on, like, for example, I'm having trouble emulating some on ARG, or we've picked a couple. There's a set of games that are a bunch. They're all complex.
Yeah.
But that's only happened a few times. Or if we miss tapings and we have to tape a bunch of stuff at once because you're leaving town or something.
Right.
But that doesn't happen. So I would say nothing, really. I wouldn't really want to get rid of any of them.
I agree.
We just can't stop. We can't help ourselves. By the way, the boys over at Pixel Gaiden postulated that the reason we started the Atari show was because you were mad because I'd had a show on my childhood computer and you demanded one.
Oh, that's exactly why we started the Atari show.
Oh, I had the heart to tell them that we started the show because I didn't even know we were starting the show.
So. Well, that was just my end. My end was okay. Rushi asks, with the experiences of the last few years, which games from the early episodes do you feel like you'd like to revisit and reevaluate?
Tons. Almost all of them, frankly. In fact, the earlier episodes, let me think here, just a couple off the top of my head. I would like to redo, what was the one boat where we forgot about the super weapon?
Oh, Super Stardust.
Super Stardust. That's the one that comes to my mind instantly. I didn't think I gave that even close to a fair chance. Some of the, excuse me, we did a lot, like, I wish we could redo, like, Dragon's Lair. I wasn't real happy with the way that one turned out. Some of our old shows, when did we start doing video? Do you remember?
It was like episode 49, I think.
I kind of missed that element to some of the old shows. I kind of wish we could redo them with the video. I think it's a lot more fun. It gives people more reason to watch. And we did a lot of big episodes early, like Wings is another one I'd like to redo.
Well, what I would like to do is is take a lot of the episodes where we did 2-in-1s or 3-in-1s or even 4-in-1s and expand those out. For example, we did all the Star Wars games on one episode.
Yeah, but that wasn't that long ago.
No, yes, it was. It was like 4 years ago.
Was it? Really?
Yeah, trust me, because I'm putting all the old episodes back up on the Amigos main podcast feed. And it was a long time ago. So I would like to.
I can't tell most of the time.
I would like to apply the format that we use now on Amigos on those early shows. Really, there aren't any that I would like are killing me that we're not going back to look at. But I feel like we did a lot of games. We didn't do them as good a service as we cover a game now back then.
Also, the pinball games we'd cover where we'd cover 2 or 3 in one show. That was a big mistake. We should have covered one.
Right.
And just all we ended up doing that eventually because remember we were like, okay, we're going to do all these pinball shows this week, and then next week it's like I don't know what, and we ended up going like 6, 8, 9, 10 tables in one show. It's like that's too much.
Yeah. So.
And if I went through the list, I could come up with 100 shows I'd like to do again.
Yeah.
I listen to myself sometimes. I want to go back. In fact, often when I'm talking, I'll bury something, and then I'll go back and listen to myself, and I'll be like, yeah, that was a good game. And I'll be like, what am I thinking? That would have killed me. So yeah, it's infuriating.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a time in the future where we'll select a game and go back and give it another look. That might be another category that we could put on for the old AGSC, second look. Make that part of our rotation because there are a bunch of games that I would like to go back and look at, say from like the first 50 episodes or so. Or
maybe we'll just lap ourselves eventually.
Maybe so.
Just go, it would be interesting to take like a poll of like the first 50 episodes and just see which ones people would like us to look back at the most. Even if we never did it, it'd just be fun to see which ones. I would like to take a poll of all of our episodes and have people, and this would probably make me angry, and have a poll of people who didn't think I gave a game or us collectively a fair shake, or we didn't see it or spend enough time with it.
That's every game. Every game, any game that people like and we don't like, we didn't give it a fair shake.
Well,
so there's no way that poll could be successful in any way.
We've talked about this before, Boat, which is why I'm always hesitant to say that we're giving these reviews because we look at them for a week.
Yeah, that's what a review is. You look at it, and you give your opinion.
But you know what I mean. Some games you need to spend more time with. To become intimate with it. More time than we have to give.
Here's the thing, though. Even if I had a million years, there are still games that I would hate. And if I don't like a game, I'm not going to give it as much time as somebody that likes the game.
Well, I understand. But something like, this popped into my head, something like Armageddon. A pretty sophisticated game that has a lot of controls and stuff in it. It would probably take you a good while just to understand how to play it effectively, not before you even understand how to build up strategies and stuff. You know what I mean?
So much of this stuff just comes down to the fact that when you're younger and you only have a couple games and you've got unlimited free time, you've got time to spend to make yourself like whatever you bought or whatever you pirated. So
yeah, you're right. I can't deny it, man.
All right. Rushi asks, with the experience... Oh, no, I just asked that question. As magnetic media continues to fail, which scenario do you feel is more realistic? A. Demand for working discs increases. B. Acceptance of the inevitable doom of the medium deflates prices across the board. Or C. The Cleveland Browns have a winning season.
Is this also Rushi?
Yeah.
I would say, what was the Cleveland Brown one? Is because no one's... Listen, here's the funny thing. Computer collecting is funny when it comes to software, right? Because number one, those discs ain't getting any better, ever, okay? But I don't know anyone that's going out and buying a copy of a game just to get the disc. No one ever does that. They want the box and all the stuff. So number one, will the demand for discs rise because people need the software? No. Will the demand of discs go down and software because people realize it's a dead format? No, because people want the boxes and stuff. So both those questions are moot. The answer is the Cleveland Browns.
All right.
What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that there are always going to be some people that like having the complete package, but I just don't see people going out to eBay auctions and buying the loose disc unless it's the weird chance that they have the rest of the junk and they just need the disc to complete it.
Yeah, I mean, if no one's buying discs just to pull the info off of them, unless it's something that no one's got.
Right.
Because we know that almost everything's out there.
Right. Okay, Rushi asks one more. He says, for me, you have a huge commitment to a diverse set of projects and a unique career. Do you have plans of complicating things by adding a boat junior to the team?
I don't.
Sub question. Would you teach Boat Junior how to fight in case he ever got roped into a bathroom stall fight club and only scold him if he ever actually talked about said club? I don't know if you saw that, Aaron, but there was a bathroom stall fight club at Winfield Middle School for a while.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And when the principal took him in, he said, you know what the first rule of Fight Club is? And so, yeah, it was basically what happened is you have one guy that's holding the door shut. Okay, then you got the two guys on either side of the toilet just taking each other down. You got to do it in the bathroom stall. That's how they do it in prison.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, Bo. Only at Winfield could this happen.
And to answer your question, Rushi, there are things, maybe. I will say maybe. Question for you, Aaron. Why is Humpty Dumpty always portrayed as an egg?
I think I answered that stupidly. I did this, I'm not supposed to. But I think I answered that in the actual chat. The correct answer is it's obviously.
Oh, no.
There you go.
All right. Chris Folds asks, with 4 shows, how many hours a week do you put into playing each of the games?
Depends.
Yeah.
For example, this week, we only had to do 2 games. Now, I've got a 3rd game for ARG. But when I pick these games, I know that the ARG game will get done last, and so I try not to go crazy on it. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I pick something really complicated on ARG and have to kind of mix in them with my week's games. That much said, this week I probably spent, I wouldn't say equal amount of time, but probably I'd say 60% of my time on Leander, probably 30% of my, 25% of my time on Hobbit, and the rest, and also a little bit tonight and tomorrow I'll be playing my choice for ARG. So but it depends each week on how complex the game is as to what ratio of time I get to spend. In terms of the actual physical amount of time, that also varies depending on what I've got to do that week. Or like I said, this week I've had some issues with my hand, so I didn't get to play games as much as I wanted to, just because I couldn't physically do it. I physically couldn't do it, so it cut down the amount of time I'll play. But depending on what games we play, I'll probably play something every night for a certain amount of time. What about you, Bode?
I try and fit in. I try and spend at least an hour with every game that we play. Sometimes it has to be more than that because of the complexity of the game. And when I'm sitting down with a really heavy strategy game, like, I won't play it like a person that would sit down and play it for the first time would. One, because I don't have like the instructions in the books and things. So I have all these different windows open. I'm looking at all these different things. I'm watching other people play it to make sure I'm not wasting my time barking up the wrong tree. I'm looking at the instructions, and I'm also comparing it against, different versions on other systems. Because here's the thing, and maybe people don't realize this, but like when you have a podcast and you play a game, it's not just enough to be able to play the game. And like, you have to have an angle. You have to be able to talk about the game in a way that's interesting to other people. You can't just be like, well, that was pretty good, I liked it, And so I'm always, especially for games that don't immediately hook me, I'm looking at, okay, how can I talk about this in a way that kind of shines light on it from a unique angle? And so sometimes that takes just as long as me actually sitting down and pushing the buttons on the keyboard and moving the mouse around. And so but other weeks, it'll be a game like, I don't know, like Starship Chameleon on the Coco, where it's like, okay, I'll sit down and I'll play it, but the majority of the time that I spend playing the game, I'm playing the game. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to actually put a lot of time into this just to make sure that I'm looking at every single way that I can approach it from the physical standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny, we have totally different approaches, but it works out. But that's probably a good thing. But yeah I don't ever... Like, I notice a lot of times, and you're lucky, you'll get to stream this stuff, and people will help you learn how to play it right there on the spot, which is awesome. It's like having living help, right there on the spot. I just have to sort of gut through. I will say here, I have learned recently to use the docs more.
Yeah, you also watch my videos also.
I do watch. Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Like
so
I absolutely watched both of them this week.
everybody's helping each other here. You guys are helping, and so let's see. And one more from Chris Folds. Have you ever visited any of the Seven Wonders, and which ones would you most like to see?
Gosh, have I visited any? No, I don't think I have. What? Can you name all the Seven Wonders?
There's the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Right.
There's the Great Wall.
Right.
The
Pyramids.
The Colosseum, the pyramids, the Chichen Itza. I'm reading this off Chris's thing, which is I think is in Peru or somewhere in South America. There's a couple other ones.
There's nothing local.
There's nothing local.
Nothing in Point Pleasant. Nothing down in Fraser's Bottom.
No.
So the answer to that question is no. If I could see one, boy, it's funny. I always, as a kid, I always wanted to see the pyramids, but my buddy visited there, and he didn't think they were that good.
Really interesting.
Well, it's the getting to them. I think was part of the problem he didn't like. So I would probably say Great Wall of China. It looks awesome. I wouldn't mind visiting that.
I want to tell you what they are. So there's the Taj Mahal, the Colosseum in Italy, the Chichen Itza in Mexico, Machu Picchu in Peru, Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, Petra in Jordan, the Great Wall of China, and the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah, I would go with the China one.
Okay, I have been to the Great Wall of China, and it was cool. The Great Wall of China, of course, is massively long. So whenever you go see the Great Wall, you only see a little bit of it. But I was lucky enough to see a part that was pretty light, and as far as tourists goes, we took it was like a 4-hour van ride out of Beijing, and it was cool. I mean, like it's constantly being repaired too. And of course, because this is like in middle of nowhere in China, there's like blocks on donkeys that people are leading up and physically placing the blocks back on the wall and stuff. So it was cool. If I had to pick one, I would really like to see the Taj Mahal. I would like to go to India anyway.
Taj Mahal looks pretty cool.
Yeah, the Taj Mahal is really that would probably be the one for me. All right, we're moving towards the end here. Barkbit asks, which system change or upgrade was the biggest leap in technology for you?
I went from, let me see here.
It would have to be from the Coco to the Amigo, wouldn't it?
It's not the path I took.
Though. Oh, what was after the Coco for you?
There was a PC Tandy 1000s that were in there.
Okay.
So probably, it would have been a PC upgrade, I'm afraid. It was going to probably be, I had a 486 that fit in the 386 slot in 93. And then I remember upgrading that to a P3. So that shows you how long I held on to that P2. So that was probably the biggest jump. I'll take that back. The biggest single jump was going from a 2D to a 3D graphics card integrated. My Banshee. That made a huge difference in the way my PC ran, the games ran. So I would probably say it would be that video card upgrade. What about you?
For me, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go from when I had the original, the click wheel iPod to an iPod Touch. Because that was my first experience with a phone screen that was like an iPhone, because an iPod Touch is basically an iPhone. I was living in Korea at the time, and they didn't have iPhones in Korea when the iPhone came out. But the iPod Touch, it was like having a computer. I mean, as long as you were around Wi-Fi, it was like having a real computer in your pocket. I remember downloading an entire copy of Wikipedia just to put on my iPod Touch. Like it was incredible to me to have that much knowledge available in my pocket. Plus, it played video. Plus, it played all my music. That's probably the biggest step in the thing that made the biggest difference in my life, like the way I listen to podcasts and stuff like that. Now, in gaming, I would say probably going from, boy, it's all been incremental. Maybe going from the Super Nintendo to the Nintendo 64 just because of 3D, playing Super Mario World and stuff like that. But I never had a jump where I went from like a Super Nintendo to like a PlayStation 2 or something like that. So it's hard for me to think about when it was like a really big change in graphics, but maybe from the SNES to the N64.
If you want to go console-wise, I went from not having a console since the Odyssey probably to a Dreamcast.
Yeah,
so
I'd say that's a pretty big jump.
leap. If you're going to go phone-wise, I went from a rotary phone to having a cell phone was like unbelievable. I remember calling Hose in the car. I was like, Hose, I'm in the car. I couldn't believe. I mean, it sounds dopey.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I'm in a car on a phone. Can you and in terms of phones, I mean, going from my folding crap phone to a smartphone, the same one I've got, that's unbelievably different. So those are huge, huge leaps.
Yeah. All right. And finally, we got two more.
Okay.
Pixels at Dawn asks, what's your favorite peripheral on any platform?
Gosh, what do you got on that one?
I should have read these before we started.
Do we have to have owned it?
No.
'Cause I can tell you the one I always wanted, and I never got it.
Okay, tell me.
And I've mentioned this on the show before. They had this expansion thing for the Amiga 1000 that would basically turn into an Amiga 2000. They gave you slots and stuff. I'm trying to think. I can't remember if it was a Bodega Bay or something else. But it was so awesome. I saw it in a magazine, and I kept calling long distance to Canada to see when they were releasing this thing because I wanted it so bad. Because I don't know I can't remember what my brain was doing at the time. But I thought, man, I could have PC slots in my 1000. I'd have it all. I think I wanted to get a bridge board and like a hard card or something. And I was like, God, I want this so bad. And they ended up making one for the 500 that did it, but I don't know if they ever released the one for the 1000, but I desperately wanted that thing. That was like my ultimate peripheral for me, was to get this thing. And I never got it. And as far as I know, I kept bugging those guys until when I called one time, the phone was disconnected. So I don't know if they got rid of it. And the funny is, no one there spoke English. They had a guy, because it was up in like Quebec or something, and so they had a guy answer the phone. He'd be like, bonjour. I'd be like, English. I would just say English, and they would go get the one guy that spoke a little broken English to tell me it wasn't ready, and that was it. So that was always a bummer.
Yeah. All right. For me, I don't know. Like I was been sitting here thinking most of the peripherals are not great. Like peripherals are just letdowns most of the time. I was thinking like the Zapper is definitely my favorite light gun. It has a great recoil sound. The games are by and large pretty good. But like
accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate. Yeah. Other than that, like the Power Pad, lame. The Power Glove, lame. The trackball for the 5200, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Heavy.
Yeah, but I don't have an answer.
You don't have a PC peripheral?
Like my USB hub? I mean, what do you?
The funny thing about this is one place the Amiga differs from like a computer, like a PC.
A real computer.
Because the IBM, you didn't get a full case replacement. And someone mentioned the Bodega Bay was the 500, so I can't remember the 1000 one. But it was a similar concept. I love wacky peripherals. And the Amiga they've got the market cornered on wacky peripherals, and they make a huge difference. Even just a couple weeks ago, we mentioned that Tenmark covered that expansion laser made, or not laser, but 3D printed gimmick to go over that expansion card that sticks up the side of your 500. I love that stuff. It's just, they didn't even care what it looked like. Just stick it out there, And it made a huge difference. And that's one of the things that makes the Amiga great, is all this wacky stuff. And everyone could have their own wacky contraption hooked up to it. Made it cool. So yeah, the Amiga, great for peripherals. Yeah.
Well, it was great for peripherals because it was so underpowered out of the box you had to order them.
That's not true. Good grief. Boats, did you have to knock the Amiga before we left? And idiotically, I might add, 85, it was the best thing going, and for a long time.
Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky, writes, question, why not use any sound effect or music of the games you review on the show? Great for podcasts as there are no visuals, even if it's just a sneak example for 30 seconds or a soft background soundtrack.
We never really did that, did we?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
It's a pain.
Yep, it's a pain, and I'm too lazy.
It's also, I remember you don't like music or sounds and stuff in your podcast.
You know, I have a real problem with that stuff. Like, some people like it. To me, it's just like, man, just listen to the Morning Zoo if you want like a bunch of like soundboard stuff. I know that lots of people like that stuff, but my favorite podcasts don't use it. I don't. It's, to me, you know, putting stuff in the podcast like that where I'm not totally behind it makes the podcast veer dangerously towards work. And work is something that I want to avoid when doing the podcast. The podcast is supposed to be fun for both of us, and yeah, so that's why we don't do it.
It's funny you should mention this, and I'll tell you why. Because I remember I started putting low-level music in a couple of my shows, and you instantly were like, because when we were doing ARG, and you were like, "What's that? You got to take that crap out of there." You hated that.
Yeah,
and so I never did it.
It is.
I
just
never did it again. Of course, we were having sound trouble anyway back in those days.
Yeah.
But when it comes to wacky sound effects. It's two of my favorite podcasts. The Twilight Zone podcast, which if you listen to that, in the entire time that's on, there's music playing. And it's awesome. It sets the stage for it. It works. And then when it comes to wacky sound effects, Pixel Gaiden, Cody's got his wacky soundboard, and he's using this thing all the time. And it's funny that he's got this thing hooked up all the time. And they just crank this stuff. It works, and it works for those guys. I don't know if wacky sounds, or I mean, we're setting our ways, I guess, to a certain degree. That never really even occurred to me. I mean, I could add that stuff on ARG. It's not that tough, but I just never really thought much about it.
Here's the thing. In order for it to sound good, and we've talked about this before, because I used to have that little soundboard. You'd have to wear headphones, and you hate wearing headphones because you can't record in onboard sound like that because it'll come through the mic and the thing, it'll sound bad.
Well, I mean, let me ask you a question. If I were to say, Bo, I'll wear headphones, would you want to implement that?
Well, if I had the soundboard back, but I've already sold it.
But I mean, even if you did have, I mean, even before that, you never seemed cool or high on doing that.
Well,
to me,
I've
heard your speech about not liking it a couple times.
Sound effects
which is fine.
Sound effects are one thing. It's fine. I really, really dislike having background music playing under the whole podcast. That I would not abide. But like, if you showed up with a soundboard and you're like, "Hey, let's do soundboard," then I'd be like, "Cool, let's put on headphones," and then we could do it. But I'm not nearly as against that as I am the whole music.
Now that we were stuck doing our show this way, you could add all the sound you want.
You're right. I'm going to go crazy. Just wait.
The one thing about it is, and this is unlike, say, Pixel Gaiden, for example, or there are plenty of shows that do it. We only generally cover one game on our shows. On a rare occasion, maybe a couple, right? And you can, I mean, and we show some video of it or whatever, but I mean, if you really want to see, and most of the video we don't even shoot. I mean, on ARG I do more than we do on here, but just because there is none.
Right.
But I mean, most of it's we're using, from other people. But really, if you want the full game experience, anyone can just go look at the video with the sound. So I mean, I can understand where you're coming from on that. But and also, you've always got to get the levels just right.
Yeah.
Where it's, and because you could literally permanently screw up your audio and have a show go in the toilet like that.
There's a lot that can go wrong.
Careful.
Yeah. But yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you all so much for putting in those questions.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's always a good time. We'll try and do this again in a month or so if we get enough questions on the old Discord. And thank you as always for Discord community for writing those in. And we'll see you guys later. Adios. Oh, shoot. I hung up on Aaron accidentally. And I'm still streaming.